You just said your name?
Yes.
Really? Slow that down. What'd you say? Okay. I don't know if that helped me, but all right. What's owing on this account?
Your Honor, this is actually defendant's motion to set aside a default judgment. The judgment entered, Your Honor, on February 17th for $382, and I believe that's the balance that remains today, but let me verify with the ledger that I have. No. Your Honor, it looks like we did request an order of eviction on this, and there may have been, so we've got her at $616.
616, that's yours?
Yep, that includes charges relating to the order of eviction, Your Honor, that was sought.
All right.
Good morning, Your Honor. So I don't understand why I'm in court first, because they sent me a docket for November rent. I do not owe November rent. My rents are current. However, they told me on the 14th of January, I paid my rent, including the first late fee. I told them that I'm okay paying the first late fee. So I paid the first late fee because I'm a PhD candidate and my funds come internationally. So due to the holidays, I was able to get my fund late. So I paid the rent on the 14th of January, including the first late fee. So on the 15th, the payment was made on the 14th before the 15th. So on the 26th, I received a call from James of Spice Tree. He told me I have a $282 balance on my account. And I requested for the breakdown of this amount. And he told me that it's a $182 court fee and a $10 late fee. So I asked, like, okay, can you guys give me a one-time waiver for this late fee? The request was declined, right? So I requested for the official court receipt for the $182 because I paid on the 14th. So he told me, oh, we filed the case. I asked him, when did you file the case? He told me they filed the case on the 6th of January. And I said, okay. He sent me the ledger. I sent the ledger back to my funders and said, this is what happened. Because you guys disbursed for me late, I have a pending amount, so you guys need to send me $282. So they declined. They said the ledger wasn't allowed, that they need an official court docket. So I came to the court to ask for these details. They told me this case was filed on the 20th. I paid my rent on the 14th. I went back to my rental contract. There is no way on my rental contract that says that they are going to charge me $182 on the 14th of January, even though I paid my rent on the 14th of January. And ever since then, even though this case has been in court, I've been getting harassing messages, and I've also been getting tags on my door that I'm late on rent, even though I'm current on rent. All I requested for, without the additional late fee and all the multiple late fee that they have been adding onto it, is that give me a receipt of the court fee that you paid to the court on the 14th of January. Because as per the court, I went to the court clerk. This case was filed on the 20th of January.
Your Honor, the demand for possession was issued on January 6th, meaning that payment of the balance due was needed by close of business on the 13th. It was not made by defendants on statements. Our complaint is dated January 14th and would have been processed by our office and sent for filing with the court on that date. I understand the court may not have received it and processed it until the, I don't know what date the court marked it as received. I don't see a date stamp on here as far as the date it was received, but I see the date it was issued by the court was on the 22nd. And so these court costs were properly incurred. The payment was due by the 13th. It didn't happen. It was referred to us for filing, and my client did incur these costs to recover the monies that it was owed. So,
Your Honor, can I ask her a question, please?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, why was I filed for the 20th of November if you guys were not trying to represent in the court? Because here it says, it says that I'm current up until 30th of November. That's what it says in the initial filing for the non-payment of rent.
In this case,
Yes.
And Your Honor, I can explain she's
you
referring
mean
to
the pro rata amount on the complaint?
yeah, so Your Honor, she's looking at the date under 5C, rent is paid through 11/30/2025.
Yeah.
And the way that calculates, Your Honor, is it looks at the total balance due, and if it exceeds however many months of rent, then it dates it back because there are additional amounts owed over and above just the base rent of the $1,500. That being utility charges that are charged and metered based on usage, trash fees. So those additional charges put the balance due over and above what would have been, in this case, presumably the January balance. And in looking at the ledger, Your Honor, we verify if she was paid, in fact, through December at the time the case was filed. And she was, Your Honor. So my client was not seeking anything over and above that, but at the time the case was filed by our office, she did still owe the January charges, late fee, and then the court costs were incurred by my client.
Your Honor, I also have the ledger here, and as that the 16th of January, my balance stays at $282.42, which is the court fee and the late fee that they charged me on the 16th of January. That's what the ledger says here. So how come if it's on the 16th of January, my balance says $282.42, and you are filing in court that my balance is $1,570. $1,570. I also have the ledger here.
Your Honor, I can look at the ledger and say, yeah, that's what it says on January 16th, but on January 14th, the balance was, in fact, $1,856.40.
I paid my rent on the 14th of January.
Do not yell.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
When they file and sign the complaint, what they alleged to the court at the time of the signing was what was owed on the ledger. You're expecting, in both things that you said, you're expecting the number to somehow change between the time that the plaintiff files it and the time that it gets to the court for filing.
Okay, Your Honor.
The only thing that's required is that the amount or the information that's contained in the complaint is true at the time that it's signed by the attorney's office. And in each of the instances that you're bringing up, it's true.
Your Honor, so if that's the case, if they are alleging that it's on the 1st of January, then the balance, so if they're alleging that they filed on the 14th of January, then the balance should be $1,674. That's what my account
If they
says.
file it on the 1st of January.
Yeah, if they filed on the 1st of January, like if they filed before then. So because my balance, my closing balance is $150 on the 5th of November, on the 5th of December, right? And on the 1st of January,
Now,
I have.
what do you want to have happen here?
Okay, so what I requested for is that I just want them to give me the receipt dated on the 14th before I paid that it was filed on the 14th.
I mean, before you pay the court costs?
Before I paid the rent, because I paid the rent on the 14th.
You want the receipt on the 14th?
Yes. Like, because I need to get this money reimbursed back to me if I'm to pay. And they say
Money reimbursed back.
okay, so they're saying that okay, sorry, I'm gonna come again, Your Honor. I'm really sorry. So I paid my rent on the 14th of January. And they are telling me that I paid my rent late on the 14th of January. So I'm going to be charged $182 for the court fee. When they called me,
you're being charged a court fee because if those things cross in the mail, they cross in the mail. I mean, quite frankly, and I don't say this to people, but you're trying to argue some timing technicality, which doesn't make any sense to me. Because the cold-hearted reality is, had you paid your rent on the 1st of November, or 1st of January, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even be arguing about it.
Yeah, Your Honor, that's why I paid the late fee. Because I understood the late night.
Right, but right, you can pay the late fee, but the plaintiff has the right to pursue whatever they can pursue in court and need to protect themselves.
Yes, but according to the contract, they told me that I should pay before the 14th and then the late fee will apply. Your Honor, I paid this from my pocket when I had additional job. But right now, the only fund I have is for my funders. So I do not have additional income to complement this. I'm okay paying all of this. But if my funders tell me we need these papers so that I can get this money from them, that's all of from my fund. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Michigan, and I get my funds from an international organization that is paying my living allowances and my rent.
And Your Honor, if I may, just to touch on one thing, defendant indicated that they told her to pay before the 14th, which is accurate. If she had paid before the 14th on the 13th, when the demand expired and required payment by, we also wouldn't be here today. The issue is that she paid on the 14th, which is not before the 14th. Your Honor, with respect to this, the judgment that has entered in this case should be sufficient for her to take to her fund and say, the court has ordered me to pay this. This is the funding I need to be reimbursed so I can have the rent cured and my housing housing remain in good standing. I don't know what sort of receipt could otherwise be provided, other than, a judgment that acknowledges what's due and owing in order to satisfy the balance owed to Spice Street.
Because on the judgment, this says I have late rent. So nothing on the judgment says that I'm paying late fee. Because to them, they are saying it's late rent I stated on this judgment. I sent this to them.
Sent to who?
I sent it to the company that funds my research.
Okay, and they won't pay it?
Yeah, they are telling me that they need to see that this was filed on the 14th, because I sent the rental contract to their lawyers, and they're like, okay, you explain to us that if this is late by the 6th day, because the guy called me on the 14th and he told me you need to pay this by card, because if you go pay by money order, it's going to be delayed. So that's on the 14th morning. So on the 14th, I got back from school at around 8 p.m. ish, and I paid it immediately because he said, if I do money order, it's going to spill to the next day, which is going to be 15th. So I went to make sure that I paid it on the 14th, because it called me on the 14th in the morning of 14th.
And Your Honor, the complaint is the date of that. It says January 14th is the date that the case was processed for filing. That's the only receipt that can be provided to her as proof that legal action was pursued because the payment wasn't timely made. That, in conjunction with the judgment, should be sufficient for that. I mean, the judgment in and of itself is an order of the court saying it has to be paid.
That was sufficient, but when excuse me, that was sufficient, Your Honor. But when I requested from Spice Street.
Okay, but hold on a second. The issue here doesn't have anything to do with Spice Street.
He has everything to do with me.
Pardon?
It has to do with me.
I know. So I'm not sure. Spice Street, everything has been done properly. The fact that, and I don't know what to tell you, the fact that they won't reimburse that, because I don't know what math they're doing. But it would seem to me that if they reimburse your housing costs, if you got a ledger and sent it to them, that should tell them.
Yeah, because I told them they said a ledger does not constitute that the case was filed in court. Because I'm having this back and forth with them also.
I hear you, but I don't know what anyone can do for that. Because you have there's the complaint that was filed. And on the 14th, what's stated on that complaint is that balance. Now, there may have been the crossing of the amounts, but I don't know why they won't pay it. But that doesn't seem to be Spice Tree's problem, quite frankly, as I'm listening to it.
Yeah,
And to be
because
honest with you, not the courts.
I get it, because I think the problem with them is the fact that they are feeling like the papers I submitted is inconsistent with the information Spice Street is giving me. Because Spice Street told me this case was filed on the 6th, right? That was the email they sent to me.
No, the notice you get a demand to pay on the 6th.
I
If
didn't
you
get.
look at your paperwork,
Yeah, I did. I got a demand to pay on the 6th. So that was why I
it
sent
expires
that
on
to
the
them.
13th, which is why you need to pay before the 14th. And on the 14th, they proceeded with the balance that was due and owing at the time. So why these people won't do something, I don't know. And I can't, I'm not going to order the plaintiff to do something which is not what the plaintiff, they did everything correctly.
Okay, so I'm just going to request from them if they can send me like an email that says like this is the actual amount or something, and like as part of the
Actual amount of
like
what?
of the $282 and the date they filed, if they can give everything to me.
You got a judgment,
Yeah, I sent the
382.
yeah, I sent the judgment to them, and they still said the same thing.
I don't know what you want me to do. They're
Okay.
not under the jurisdiction of this court. That you got a judgment. The judgment says this is what you owe.
Okay, I would proceed with the payment of the judgment.
Pardon?
I would proceed with the payment of the judgment then. Because they are just giving me a lot of a back and forth with them.
Okay, but I can't do anything with it. So you're going to, so you filed a motion to set aside the default. When I look at everything, you haven't stated the basis to do that. The motion to set aside is denied. And the judgment will stand. What I'm going to suggest you do is pay off the judgment and then deal with those folks. But there's nothing, I'm not going to order Spice Tree to do something that they don't need to do. And I can't just order people to do stuff. All right, thank you. Versus Hunter McNiff.
Welcome back to our video. In this courtroom dispute, a tenant challenges a default judgment after being charged additional fees in a rent payment conflict. The defendant explains that she paid her rent on January 14th along with the first late fee, but she now faces additional court costs and eviction-related charges totaling hundreds of dollars. The situation quickly turns into a debate about timing, when the rent was paid, when the case was filed, and whether those events cross paths in a way that makes the charges unfair. As the discussion unfolds, the defendant argues that her international research funders require official documentation showing exactly when the legal case was filed in order to reimburse the fees. The plaintiff's attorney, however, explains that the demand for payment was issued earlier and required payment before January 14th. Because the payment deadline passed, the landlord had the legal right to pursue court action and incur filing costs, even if the payment was eventually made shortly afterward. The judge then clarifies an important legal principle. What matters in complaint is whether the information was accurate at the time it was signed and submitted. Even if the payment and filing happened close together, the court focuses on whether the balance was still owed when the legal process began. From the court's perspective, the landlord followed the proper procedure. Ultimately, the judge finds that there is no legal basis to set aside the default judgment. The motion is denied, and the judgment will remain in place. The court advises the defendant to resolve the outstanding payment and work directly with her funding organization if reimbursement is needed.